So I have students who did their final big senior recital certificate program here, went on to different schools, finished their master's degree, and they're back teaching here with me. And it's just the best. So they're like, I'm their mom and their colleague and their boss at the same time.
A few weeks ago, we had Vera on the podcast, and if you didn't catch that episode, that was episode 93. And in that episode, we did our 5 for 5. Vera talked about Aurora Music School, the school she's built in the outskirts of Cleveland, has over 1,000 students. And we wanted to have Vera back on the podcast today because in preparation for that episode, Vera said something very interesting. She said that Aurora Music School has discovered how to build a self-feeding positive environment so that teachers, staff, and parents want to be part of the school for, in some cases, 20 years and beyond. So naturally, Nate and I were really intrigued about that. And there's a lot of cool things that are going on at Aurora, to be quite honest. I mean, go back and listen to this previous episode. There's some really cool things happening there. We had almost an embarrassment of riches. We had to decide which topic we wanted to focus on, but we decided to probe this idea because I think there's gold here for listeners who want to build a culture in their school where both teachers and students want to stay with the school for the long term. So we're going to dig into that today. So Vera, I wanted to start by asking you a question. What do you mean by a self-feeding positive environment? That's kind of a $36 college term, it almost sounds like. Can you unpack that for us? What is that, a self-feeding positive environment?
Wow, $36 college term. I love it. I want to say what it is that you make someone happy. So if you make your teachers happy, your students happy, their grandparents happy, their uncles happy, their little kids happy, their siblings happy, their baby sisters happy, and your office staff is happy, and then it's just a circle of positive that just feeds itself. So, there's obviously all the details about that I'd love to go into it. But
yes.
For example, just a simple thing, when I interview someone and they come into the building, they're welcomed. And if, a lot of times I interview, by the time I interview them in person, it's going to be like, you're the one. I just want to make sure you have an eye and eyes and everything. So I bring in teachers in the same field, welcoming them, connecting right away. Where did you study? I studied here. So great to see you. So great to have you part of our team. We also have someone who is an onboarding buddy we call it onboarding buddy of my teacher team, who is really great at admin and teacher and helping them how to use our app. Because, I think I mentioned to you guys in my little crisis last year when my entire software completely crashed. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Just, no problem. And your entire operation system crashes. You're up all night. I think you've seen me with like eyes like this, and I would never just hard, So, she does that. I train teachers, and that way they're completely having a rooted understanding of the mission of the school. I try to make sure they understand the deep level of appreciation of human beings that they're going to deal with, and not just the method, not just how they teach, but how they profile students and parents and how they meet them at their level of need, always. And a lot of teachers come in thinking that, I teach this way. This is how I've been doing it for the last 5 years, 6 years. This is how it works. That's awesome. They're bringing their knowledge and their background. Sometimes they have degrees from different countries, which is really wonderful. But they need to learn the culture of your environment, the culture of your school, the culture of the exact location you are. It's different to teach music in Puerto Rico than Aurora, Ohio. It's just different.
So I have a follow-up question to that. But first, such a great answer. And what I think we want to dig into, because in the 5 for 5, we got these big picture ideas. And what I think we want to do in this episode is dig a little bit more into the logistics and how you're actually pulling that off. So you've created this environment where seemingly everyone's happy to be there. And so there's this positivity that's just radiating from the staff, from the admin, from the teachers. It reflects into, and you get that reflected back from the students and the parents. How do you begin to build an environment like that? Take us down to what you think the foundation
Exactly.
is.
So very good, Daniel. I think I have to go back to the bottom in the beginning. I mean, I'm 46-year-old. I'm very honest to share that with your audience. And as a lady, and I was 26 when I opened my school. But before that, I was a piano teacher at my own house, right? Very typical story. We hear this all the time. Very inspiring how, young musicians start out in their home and they build a school, right? But one thing I've done that I think most people were not willing to, and I think it's important that you do something that maybe other people are not willing to, is put on recitals every 3 months and not every 6 months and not once a year. Every 12 weeks, my students are on stage. In between, if we have extra gigs, an extra opportunity to serve a community, go to a nursing home, go to a farmer's market, go to a grand opening, go to a wedding, whatever it is you do with your students, great. But the minimum cycle is every 12 weeks. I think it's a really good rhythm because you can start a new project, finish it, perfect it, and show what you've been working on stage. Not just every 3 months, but I made a recital format that is very unique. And what it is I think a lot of times when parents think about, oh my gosh, I'm going to take my kid to recital, it's going to be the most boring thing. And then they have one after another kid. Thank you. Next. I mean, it's nothing like this. First of all, you got parents and children fooled because we do not have a set program. You only have the student's name, the teacher, and instrument. The audience has to guess what they just heard. Whether they know the composer, the piece, or the character, or anything about it, I'm doing a complete interactive show. I call it a show because it's no longer a recital. A show with the audience. So that little sibling who's 3-year-old can put their hands up. That was Mary had a little lamb. And they get a magic pencil. Woo! And the magic pencil changes colors in your hand. Do you think that 3-year-old is going to cannot wait to come to the next recital? Okay. So the audience have the chance to be participating, put their hands up. And the best thing about it is the performer who just came off stage is going to be giving the magic pencils to their fans, their new friends they just met in the audience. Connection, total connection to your audience. The other thing is, once the kids are taking their bow and they did great, first of all, I don't introduce them like this. The next person is Leo Boroke. The next person is Leo. Woo! And the whole audience already screams because they're taking all my energy, right? They're done with their performance, and instead of them thinking, oh my gosh, I messed up the A flat and the basso, there is this magic cup flying towards them from me. It's a color changing cup. Aurora School of Music, has our mission and phone number and everything. But the most important thing is changes colors with your drinks. So, and you can collect it in your kitchen. It never goes back. And it's basically your resume. How many cups you have, right? There is a special cookie that's a homemade cookie from one of our parents who runs her own business out. It's phenomenal cookie. You got the magic pencils, and you have a juice box, and you have stickers. I mean, dude, it's like better than a birthday party. So these kids want their magic pencil, and the magic cup, you can only get it if you're a performer. You cannot buy it. It's something very special, and I emphasize it. You can only buy magic cups. I mean, you can only earn magic cups, right?
Yeah.
So, and then they go back to the audience, and they're just so thrilled. So to put together a show like this, it takes a lot of, I have now a backstage manager who's putting it together. And then at the end of the concert, we not only have a teacher feature, so they hear one of our faculty who's like, world-class performer. Wow. Or me, if there's no, because we have 14 shows a weekend. So that's what I'm telling you. Like most people, right now with my school, it's 14. But when I had my private studio, it was 60 kids. Then it grew into 2 recitals, then 3 recitals, then 4 recitals, and 5. And that's why I'm going to get into the concert hall in a minute because, we obviously hit a problem with all these events growing. But I do have an award recognition, which is the Most Improved Student Award. So every teacher nominates based on their studio size, 1, 2, or 3 students who have made the most progress. Either their attitude has changed. They were cranky, manky coming to lessons, and now they're like, ooh, this is exciting. They turn them around. There's some kind of positive change. They started practicing. They're excited to come to lesson. Or someone is just taken off in their work ethic. Someone just started being persistent, consistent, right? All these. So we start with the t-shirt. They get an Aurora School of Music t-shirt with an outstanding music student in the back. They know you can never purchase that. You can only earn it. So they're like so excited.
What I'm hearing you saying when you say self-feeding, right? We're talking about a self-feeding positive environment. Obviously, awards as a validation is like huge for you, Vera, right? Because you just I think you gave like 6 different examples of awards. No, 8 different examples. But am I correct when we say self-feeding, you're like the teacher is the teacher is the one who's nominating and giving a t-shirt. Is that what you mean by self-feeding? The student is the one who's handing out the magic pencil. Where's the self-feeding part of this?
I think what it is that, the parents and the students are so happy and they're so motivated so that we don't have, how would I say, what Daniel described in one of the awesome write-ups is, they're dragging their feet. There's no practicing, but you have to make them happy. You can't tell them, sorry, you got to practice or else this doesn't make sense because they want to keep the retention. The parents are so addicted to the program of these recitals, that if the teacher says, hey, listen, it's time for you to get a piano now, no more keyboard. Great. How do we do it? Or, it's time for longer lesson because we can't fit the material in. Your child is so advanced. Okay, great. Let me wear, so it just works. It's the positive just works. You don't have to. I think that the word was really good. The nagging your teachers, nagging your parents, nagging. You know what I mean? You don't have these conferences every month. So, well, you're enrolled for piano lesson. You have to have a piano.
Yeah.
Some kind of a keyboard. Piano. So none of that. None of that. So it's just there's such a wonderful, positive working relationship with your students, parents, and teachers that there's an understanding and respect, and they just want to do it because it's so fun and so positive and just want to be part of it, right? So if you don't mind me explaining this award system, can I finish that up a little bit? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah,
because I think it's so cool. So when someone gets an award here at the Aurora School of Music and they're recognized in front of 180 people in the hall, they have to promise that they're ready to double their practicing. So it's not an ending point. It's a starting point of a new life and new vision, right?
Is this a public promise? Like
it's a public promise. Now, a lot of these kids who come and get a t-shirt first time, they're doing maybe 10, 15 minutes, 20. So it's easy to double. It's not a big deal. And sometimes we even discuss, do you like to do the scale? Oh, you don't like to do the scale on arpeggios as much? Now you're going to have to do scales and arpeggios because you're a t-shirt girl and a t-shirt dude. What do you say? Yes. Woo! Everybody, it's like getting them into the next level of vision, right? So then if we pace it out like pretty well per year minimum, and then they get the tote bag. The next one is the tote bag. Again, getting to the next vision of practicing, and the next vision of participation, and the next vision of maybe a relationship with a teacher, how to, all that stuff. So, and then you have sweatshirt and tote bag and windbreaker jacket, man. You can wear awesome stuff. And the highest level, number 6, is pajama pants, flannel pajama pants, man. Everybody wants to get there. This is their dream. Miss Vera, for my recital, for my senior recital, can I have a pajama pants, please? Yeah, they just love it. So these are another layer of motivation, because the kids are like, I'm going to get that tote bag. I'm going for my tote bag. I'm going for my tote bag, So they're just so excited. And I think it's not just what they get, obviously, how edified the moment is, right? They're on stage, called back after everyone's playing, and they're by themselves standing on stage and interviewed and just totally celebrated. So that's what I meant to say.
So I think that now would be a good time for those who are listening. If you're not watching on YouTube, for those listening, you can hear that Vera's in a big room. I think you can tell just by the audio. So I would maybe recommend for those who are listening, come over to YouTube and look at the video, because Vera, what I want you to do right now is maybe just move the camera so we can actually see the recital hall. She's sitting in a recital hall on stage.
I am standing. This is the stage, and then look, you see that there's a balcony.
Hell yeah.
And these windows have shades, and you can make it completely a dark, audience room. And then here I am on stage, and now I'm gonna turn it around. Here's the backstage with the curtain. It's a little messy, but you guys can see that. This is really cool.
Yeah.
Every kid is learning about, let's hope I'm not dropping this, about, whoa.
Love
the
it.
red bench where we are sitting right before. Here's the backstage, harpsichord there. And then here's our stage. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Looks amazing. Love it.
So what I want to kind of highlight from this is that, the idea of creating an experience, and I, as people watch or listen, you can see this enormous recital hall. Obviously, a lot of thought and care has been put into this. You're hearing the culmination of 20 years of creativity and ideas that have led to a program that is world class, where people commute 90 minutes to come to this school. But I want to point out that what Vera said was that she started out in her home with 60 students and still had the basic version of this program that has expanded over the years to the point where, and I don't say this lightly, but there are books on there about how, Disney has this world-class customer service. They're creating an experience. It's all a show. I would compare Aurora's program to that, but it didn't start in this final form. It got here over time. And so for those listening, I would just say, what's important to you? And this goes back to episodes 1, 2, and 3 that Nate and I said at the very beginning. You have to discover what your thing is. And clearly for Vera, the fact that she built this amazing recital hall is the fact that she's building a performance-based school. Not every school is going to do this. The secret to retention isn't to try to recreate or make your version of what Vera did. It's to get in touch with who you are as a person and build a program that will create an experience for the people in your community, not to look at this as, here's the tactic to get your students to stay for 10, 15 years, your staff to stay for 20 years. It's to get in touch with who you are. And so...
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Vera, I maybe have a follow-up question, and Nate, I'm sure you've got a ton as well. But Vera, could you take us inside what a lesson looks like at Aurora Music School? How are you getting kids to show this level of excitement? What are you doing to prepare them for this performance environment, for this performance culture?
Wow, that's a great question. And then I'll definitely get into the concert hall funny story, also as well. So right now, currently, if you're coming in to learn piano, you will see Miss Vera first, and I assess the student. And I introduce them to cat, doggy, elephant, froggy, giraffe, alligator, and bunny. They're the C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Even if they're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, they're going to love it, because it's a whole system, how to localize the keys versus, linearly, and have their ear trained, and it's an enchanted vocabulary, and it's awesome. But immediately they're gonna feel that piano is the easiest thing. I love it because Miss Vera is so fun, and she's showing me tricks that I knew all my life, I just never did. So that is the atmosphere of the introduction. And then because right now we have 10 piano teachers in the department, including me, I really take the ones that are maybe not classroom ready yet. So I have to put them on a system, either because of behavior challenging, maybe neurologically they're different, or there is some kind of background that doesn't allow them to sit on the bench. They're bouncing around like little rabbits. Those are my favorite students. And the rest of them, I can just, make sure if it's pop, jazz, or what their personalities. What I'm amazing at right now after all these years is profiling people. I understand how their brain works. What is their niche? What triggers them to be excited? What's their motivation point? Are they more visual? Are they relationship based? Are they more, etc.? And then everywhere they go, whether it's a flute class, a bassoon class, a guitar class, or all that, the kids who come through the door, it's a culture that they learn. Are you interested in music lessons? That's amazing. You're already awesome. High five. You got awarded already just for being amazing. Just like little kids, they come to the Aurora School Music, they sit in the waiting room. I squat down to their level and said, "Did you bring all 5 fingers? Let's check it out. 1, 2, 3. You brought all your 5 fingers? You're already amazing. That's it. You're in. So I think making them feel extremely elevated and happy for being there. Now, what is the psychology behind? If you make someone feel amazing about themselves, their happy neurons starts firing in their brain, and their learning ability opens up way more. And this has been so much science on that, right? It's called the sweet spot. It's just, we know that from so many background research, and it's really a teaching technique. It's not an evaluation. I keep explaining to some of my teachers who are like, why do I have to say they're awesome? They're not awesome. I'm not, because it's not an evaluation. It's a teaching technique. So
I love that.
And then obviously I do help teachers with the lesson flow on how to interrupt someone, how to build, how to introduce a new concept, what is the psychology of it, everything, right? So that their relationship building with a student is flawless. And then the parents, right? How to have the parents get excited, and I have all kinds of charts to make them all positive and support each other. And then when is it time to communicate with me? How many weeks are you allowed to wait until you communicate with me? But my method has definitely brought a lot of people because the teachers love it so much. They want to be part of it. And then the method is so approachable, so easy we start them at 3. They are in diapers. Just want to let you know, my favorite pianist is a diaper pianist. They wear the diapers and they play 2 hands twinkle twinkle. One is the drum, because the drum C G ostinato, and then ear training twinkle twinkle. So obviously it's just such an exciting program that they're willing to come, and they recommend it to their friends, and it's just an awesome thing.
Vera, you said a number of things that you kind of skirted over a number of points there that are essential for our listeners to hear more specifics on. First of all, you said there are charts for everything. So just make it just like really straightforward and simple for our listeners. You show up and you do an evaluation for every student that comes in. Mm-hmm. That's true across all the instruments. So you're showing up like 10, 20 times a week to do evaluations, or is it only within the piano department?
Only within a piano department could be 10 to 20 a week, yes, just piano.
And so you personally are showing up for that opening sesh, but you're focused just on piano. I want our listeners to be really clear that they're not supposed to show up to like 60 lessons or 40 new lessons a week or month, right? You're saying specifically piano.
And a lot of times it's easy to do as a family, and a lot of times. So I'm sure you agree that the piano is one of the instruments that parents just decide to put their children in
Oh, yeah.
without
It's
much
the default.
discussion. So that's when I get into the relationship with the kids and, oh, here's a drummer. We're going to enroll this child to drum.
Oh,
Oh, did you
interesting.
want to do viola? No, mom, no piano. He likes the viola. So I am basically actually kind of redirecting
Yes, dig it. Okay.
redirecting the vision of the parents so that they understand that we have to ride on that interest first. There's no such thing of the old fairy tale that you have to start with piano, because if you don't start with piano, that's not the right,
Right.
not at all. So a lot of students who come with me for evaluation, they end up in a percussion studio, and they also end up in different teachers' studios because they're listened to, and I understand that that's not really what they want to do. Piano is something else.
So, okay. So what I hear you saying is like, here's one of your native genius. You want every family to enter Aurora and first come in contact with you because that's a really essential and culturing moment. But also they come in contact with you because you use the term profiling. You're so good at that that you can then direct towards the right teacher or the right environment. So I have two other specific questions. One, you said
Yes,
some
but
who are
let's
not.
make sure that this is only just the parents who intend for piano and end up somewhere.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I can't, because at this level, when you have this many students and a turnover and coming in and blah blah blah, I want you to imagine 35 trials a week.
Yeah,
Impossible.
totes. Yeah, you couldn't be in. You could.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be too much to ask of a founder.
exactly. So obviously voice students meet the voice, but we already, train our staff. The voice applications are very specific. Is it musical theater, pop, or, more like classical? And then the guitar, and then we have the trumpet is so specific. You have one teacher,
Right.
right?
So just to, I want to be super helpful for our listeners here around this profiling idea and around what you're specifically doing to train your teachers, your trumpet teacher, your voice teacher. How do they? What kind of training are you putting them through so that that student who comes in for the first lesson is going to have the same experience that they get with you? So that enculturing piece, that assessment and the redirection, obviously a trumpet student might come in and you want to redirect them to piano because it was a poor choice once the teacher profiled. So how are you training your teachers to profile? How are you training your teachers to enculture in the first lesson? Like, what's the specific training that you do with them just so our listeners can benefit in that way?
I mean, in a broad way, being available and able to communicate all the time, because a little bit of frustration is very easy to feel for any teacher in the room. Oh, okay, this kid is, I'm not understanding him. Vera, what do I do? You have to have that open communication. When a teacher comes on board with me, I do have like a contract meeting and a 2-hour meeting at least, when we go through how things operate. And I explain the vision for the school. This is with someone who's, let's say, a trumpet teacher, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then what is the atmosphere? How do we solve problems? What is my role in their life here? When do they need to talk to me? What are the red flags? And I go through the red flags that they need to discuss with me and not keep it inside and think it's their responsibility to solve.
Give us a couple examples. Red flag. 2 real quick red flag examples for our listeners.
The kid is 10 years old, keeps coming to trumpet lesson without the music.
Red flag number 1.
Red
Love
flag,
it.
yeah. Talk to me. We have to reach out to the parent, get a conference, make them understand. The biggest thing in studios with older kids is the parent communication, right? The kid is, for example, not paying attention. They're not, there's some listening issues and some communication issues. Then I come in and observe the lesson and see what kind of, tips I can give, or what can we do to make it better. But with the piano department, I spend weeks with them because of my method. It's a completely different thing. So when you come on as a piano teacher at the Aurora School of Music, it's a nightmare for 2 weeks, and then you're very happy. You spend like 80 to 90 hours with me.
I want to briefly ask a question here. Do you feel like you are looking for a special person that can fit into Aurora, or do you feel that you can take an average teacher and turn them into someone that exemplifies the culture and the attitude that you're trying to exhibit in Aurora?
Oh my gosh, that's a genius question, because this is everyone's exact dilemma, right? How much value is in the training versus the outside experience that they're bringing, right? How much value is in the experience at ASM? So, a little bit, it depends. I'm going to be very specific. When it comes to piano, I have built from a completely average person, not just an amazing teacher, but a great pianist. I work with my piano teachers to build on their performance and technique as well. So that, they're very confident and being an amazing accompanist and being a solo artist, whatever they want to do. I have rehabilitated a lot of injuries as well. I mean, some of my stuff is injury rebuilt, or, like rehabilitation of hands and stuff like that. So when it comes to the piano, I'm an expert on it, so it's easy, right? But I don't play the violin. I don't know how, I know the Suzuki method very well and how it's done, but whoa, you don't want to hear me play the violin. So there you go. So when it comes to the violinist, I understand different techniques, different schools, different approaches. They need to be already a perfectly built, specific person I'm looking for with a specific training, sometimes even with a specific trainer in the area that I know. Because, I have a connection with someone who trains the best pedagogy in violin and viola and cello, and this is where I get my teachers from. And so when it comes to other instruments, it's different. When you have your own field of expertise, that's where you can mold the most.
Those other department heads, do you feel that they have that same attitude, that same cheerfulness, that same positivity that you exhibit so well? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's kind of that you must have that,
Yeah.
But every time we change teachers, this is what I say to the kids. So after Miss Michaela, who's leaving, who's so fantastic, so fun, and so amazing, do you think you're going to have a boring and mean teacher, or a super amazing and super fun? So they have to have a great ability to connect, cheerful disposition, able to communicate well, loving what they do. And I think that's what I profile really well when you come an interview, is that teachers here, this is not a job. It's a passion. They must love what they do. And so when we interact in our we have a kitchen where we hang out and we have a table there and everything. We talk all the time. Oh my gosh, you should hear this kid. It was so fantastic. And so we are constantly talking about our students and what to do better and what do you think of this, and ideas exchanged all the time. Because what is the biggest scare for a studio owner or anybody who's a principal of a school? Because as a studio owner for a music school, you're a principal, right? Is complacency. Complacency is the word in any field, actually. That's kind of like the nightmare. So you want to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think that's why I have to be, if I'm this much energy, even if they have this much, is already great. So that's why I'm shooting for always the top motivator. And if the next one is 25%, it's still fantastic.
Vera, I just wrote down in my book, I'm just always taking notes on what you're saying. And I just coined the term the Vera kitchen. So I'm going to challenge all of our listeners that have schools. What's going to be your Vera kitchen? Where are you going to congregate with your teachers and ideate? Like, just where are you going to go meet and talk about students together? Like, create the Vera kitchen in your own program. It doesn't have to be a kitchen, obviously. It can be anything. It could be beers Friday night. Anybody want to come hang out and we'll talk about students?
That's right. They already know I do a really mean chicken paprikash, so people love that. And so honestly, everybody has different styles. I don't know what it is with me. Maybe it's because I'm Hungarian, but I just love food. We just love food here. So every meeting, okay, what do we want? Sandwiches, which place you're going to order from,
Yeah.
And just, we just hang and eat. There's no meeting without food. I don't know how to do it, man.
Vera, can I ask I want to pop back to Daniel, but can I rewind tape and just get specifics on one of your comments from like 5 minutes ago? You
Sure.
said, as part of your onboarding with new teachers, you say, this is how many weeks until you come to me for help. Can you get really specific on what that is? Like, so
Yes.
they know that you said in one moment you said you're always available. You got to keep those lines of communication open. But then in another moment you said, actually, don't come to me for this many weeks because
Oh, no,
I
no,
know
no.
that there's
What it is don't wait. That's the minute. By then, you have to come to me. If you wait too long, it's a problem. Yeah.
Love
Sorry
it.
about that.
Don't wait more than this many weeks before you come to me, which is a really great specific tip because I think oftentimes, I know from you, because we know one another well, that you're a force, right? And so you can also be intimidating, right? It's like, do I go to Vera with a question because she's just she knows so much and she's so forceful, like maybe I should just figure this out. And you're saying, no.
Yeah,
just because I'm high impact doesn't mean I'm unapproachable.
Yeah, if someone is asking me questions every week, I love it. This
right.
is, So here's the chart. You wanted to ask me about the chart, right?
Yeah. I just want to know what
really
are they actually
cool one.
seeing.
I mean, I wish I brought it here, but I think it's every studio owner's challenge. It's such a great thing. The goal is to have a positive, wanting to learn kid with a positive support parent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the goal of every lesson, that you have a student who's really excited about learning, but you don't have a parent who is like,
yes,
on their phone. And when do I have our next lesson next time? Okay, see you later. You want a parent who's completely involved, wants to know the new homework, what's going on, new, excited. Oh my gosh, son, that sounded amazing. Woo! Just the same. This is optimal ideal, because when that relationship is growing together with a child and a parent, they're still going to have a great relationship at 12 and 13 and 14. And that's the most likely to stay with you long term. But you have situations that are very different. A child wants to be playing very excited, and a parent is doubtful that their kid can do this. So they come in with let's see if you can do this, buddy.
Right.
So that's I call it positive student, negative parent. How do you turn the parent into a positive? Constantly reinforcing the parent how amazing this child is, and how challenging the task is, and look, the kid did it, and how fantastic this is going for. Very easy, right? How do you turn around a parent who's very excited about music education, but their kid is like, I don't want to do any music.
Positive
and
parent,
there,
negative
right?
student.
Negative student, positive parent.
Right.
Incentives for students, so easy. If they're very little kid, you can do the ABA. You do one finger pattern. Here's your M&Ms. Which M&Ms do you want? Yellow or red? For very little kids. Or, all kinds of incentive programs that you can do, different motivation techniques. And to get a kid excited about music takes 2 minutes. Parent is much longer.
Right.
Now, what if you have two negatives? That can happen sometimes. That's where a teacher cannot wait to talk to me too long, because you will lose it. Very typical. The grandparents are motivated to put their kids in lessons, and the parents are not that eager to take them. And the kid is just like, whatever, I'm doing piano lesson, I'm not excited. Wrong placement in instruments. It's very much possible. They don't like drums because the grandpa wants drum lessons. They wanted to sing, but the grandpa thinks singing is silly, So then I have to find it out. Or how to motivate both parents, get them into higher care, positive. You have to change that into positive. If that positive change doesn't happen from 2 negatives, within 3 weeks, they're done. You lost them. So you
Wow,
have a
that's
3 to 4
fascinating.
week period where you can switch it around. Yes.
That's fascinating, Vera, because I don't think in all our apps we've ever had someone be that specific in terms of the onboarding and how crucial it is, both from a sort of administrative founder standpoint and also from a teacher standpoint. That's 3 to 4 weeks. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, Daniel.
How did you come up with that wisdom, Vera? What made you realize that was true?
I don't know.
Okay.
Obviously
20 years.
Yeah.
Well, when I did the teacher training when a parent segment comes up, right?
Mm.
So when I do a teacher training for Vera method, that takes like 2-3 weeks. So we cover how to teach the parents the mommy daddy time. What are the attitudes that we observe? What is the body language of engagement and non-engagement? And then eventually I came up with this chart. But one other thing we do in a school, this is brand new, by the way, so cool, I'm super proud of, is parent-student-teacher communication is key, right? Every time you lose a student, most likely there's something going on with communication, right?
Yep.
So we don't do formal evaluation for parents, none of, not academic stuff, grading, none of that. So, I mean, just making sure that if someone is listening and they're into the grading and all that stuff, that's not what we are doing. But we evaluate on a scale of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the intensity of that child's relationship to their instrument studies. So watch. Number 1, genius, potential to go to Juilliard, Broadway, whatever they want to do with music. Okay? So they're like, that means that the parents and the teachers' communication has to be the most intense. The next audition, the next gig, the next challenge, the next competition, the next opportunities way beyond the Aurora School of Music competitions and all that. So that's number 1. Number 2, someone who has great talent and they have the potential to eventually audition for university, either as a primary or a secondary instrument, right? So you can be a biology and piano major. Cool. So they are just very diligent, extremely interested, and wonderful student. Number 3, they come, woohoo, they have a great time. They tell about their holidays. They love their little homework. They're cuties. They're just perfect students. A very lovely experience. 4, sweaty lessons. We call them the sweaty lessons, when you are really challenged for, redirection, behavior modification. You got to have different tricks for attention, how to settle the child and make them focus. That's number 4. So every student in their profile, when you look at them in our computer, they have this number attached. So if someone needs to reschedule something that's a number 1 student, please pay attention to get them in, right? Their priority to get them makeup, because they're going to be preparing for something really pressing, audition. They're always, we have musical theater kids who are already like, selected with Broadway, casters and stuff, crazy stuff, So, and then number 5 is what I described. Get them out of my face. I can't take it anymore.
That's when they come to you ASAP.
Yes. 5, help me, God. What do I do? That's it. So the 5 doesn't, obviously we take them out, or, there's sometimes it's family circumstances and all kinds of stuff can happen in there. But, that could be a totally separate episode for me to profiling families and what to do with them.
You made a comment in the previous app around, one of Daniel's native geniuses, which is just seeing things. I think you said like 3-dimensional organizational
yes
superpower that Daniel has. And I want to just highlight something here. You just described like an immaculate system for student and family profiling. That's precisely what you just in the previous episode said you don't have. But here you're giving this brilliant example. We've never heard in 90, I don't even know what episode we're on, but we nearly 100. Yeah, 93 episodes.
97, my fault.
97 eps. Vera, this level of precision in a student family profiling system. So let me can I just correct your comment from the last ep? I think you're absolutely a systemizer when it's within your sphere of specific interest.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just saying, like, for our listeners, if you feel like Vera, or sometimes I feel this way, where I'm like, I really want to be hyper organized and systemized in every facet of my business, and you're questioning that, I think this gets back to Daniel, your comment last app with Vera, which is like when you really get to know who you are and what value you're going to bring to your school, that's probably where you first focus on systemizing your business, right? Focus on systemizing in your specific area of interest. And from there, we might grow a little more confident, right, Vera? We might be like, hey,
Exactly.
wait, we can systemize well enough to do, for example, what you've done, which is literally build a concert hall within your space.
So, there's so many different places we could take this. And Vera, what I think this is, we just need to have you back on at some point in the near future. I think the question that most interests me at this point, thinking back to the idea of the episode, how do you retain students? How do you retain staff? I think the big picture summary that I'm seeing here is just that you've created an experience, kind of like what I said earlier in the episode. I don't know how you're going to answer this question, but at what point in your journey did you start pushing off some of these tasks to the admin, to the other managers in the school? At what point? I think this is just an entry level question. At what point did you start doing that? How did you know it was time?
I don't think anyone knows it's time. It's just like you have no choice, I think things happen. I want to tell you that for example, when I built the concert hall, my staff didn't have a choice, but you have to take on way more because I had to be in meetings on designing the hall. I had to be in meetings all the time, figuring things out. And I was pregnant with 2 twins. You know what I mean? Not two, one pair of twins, right?
Pair of twins.
So, in a lot of times it's just when and how I mean, you would have a plan for it. I don't have a plan for it. I'm not a planner like Daniel. It's just I don't know how to do that. That's why I want your brain. I think I would be like so much happier to be Daniel brain. But what happens is that, again, as I mentioned, who's coming in your life? So I had many managers before who were very capable. And then because of that, I was able to jump into something like creating a concert hall. But if you wanted to know the concert hall story, it's really amazing because it just shows that sometimes it's good to be a little dumb. I know it's a shocking statement to say, but if you know everything, what it takes, how much steps, what's the planning, and what energy is going to take out of you, you would say, no way in this world I'm doing it, right? But when you have a dream and it meets that deadline kind of crisis necessity, you do it. So here's the story. Do you remember how I started? Actually, my first studio was 98 students a week, and I had 60 students in a recital. The recitals grow from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. This area that I describe, Aurora, is more of a upper middle class community. A lot of people have clubs. They do their swimming in a club and a golf club. And I got in good relationship with one of the golf clubs. Very fancy place, beautiful diner. They had a Yamaha grand piano in it. And I would book some weekends for my recital. And in exchange, I would entertain their clients every Friday and Saturday with my piano playing.
Nice
so
barter.
That was our arrangements for years and years and years. And the rock concerts would be in a different club. And The chamber music was in another location. So I outsourced my networking relationship, and that's how I did it for years. But guess what happened? 2008 happened with a real estate crisis and the entire economy tanking. And the club that I had a great relationship with came to me and said, where we looked at the books, there's a new owner. It went on auction. There's a new owner. I don't know if you heard of Monty Ahuja. Has bought up hospitals. Like a really amazing guy who came here with $8 and made a very huge auto business in the Cleveland area. He bought up the club and looked at the books and sorry, no money making opportunity. You need to clear up and done. So basically, they were ready to let me go completely of this relationship. Think about the panic.
Yep.
So did I always talk about one day we can have a concert hall? Absolutely. So in that situation, you can't just build a concert hall in 2 months when your next recital is. So I had to reach as high as a senator and governor's level to negotiate this and reverse this little idea of me being out of the club, because one of our students was grandchildren of the former Ohio governor and senator. He's passed now. He's a wonderful guy. He's the one who went up to this wealthy man who didn't like his books on the table, to say, hey, let's not just push out my grandchildren's school. So it was like the
Right.
God's alarm, as they say, the angels. Hey, hint, you need to start planning. So I started planning. And if I knew how much challenge there's going to be in there's no way you would do it. I mean, we had one architecture and bank and building team fall apart completely. Then a parent who's another angel comes to you who happens to work in a banking business super high up. He puts together a new team for me and the whole thing works out. We start doing it. Then we have 2 floods. One flood, some workers almost died. The second flood, someone forgot the pump on just, basically on a strip, and there was no electricity. So you have soundproof walls, totally ready carpet, 6 inch of water, redo the whole thing. I'm ready for construction, but you're traumatized for 10 years after. Is that sweaty? But to be honest with you, to have a concert, because it was also, we basically redo a ton of, basically I chopped off 9/10 of my building completely to the ground and rebuilt the whole thing, basement and most of the practice rooms went into the basement, and a concert hall, as you see, first floor, second floor. We got some studios in the second floor and then a first floor, right? So it's as a complete build out. If I didn't know you have to have an advocate for yourself, because construction companies are difficult sometimes. It just comes with a lot of headache. But I found out that the acoustic design of a hall is a total lock.
Nice.
So you can have all the simulators, oh no, move the wall a little bit like this, because none of the walls are parallel in my hall. If you look at the ceiling, there's see that? Those floating ceilings are very difficult to construct, and none of the walls are parallel in any instance. Do you see that?
Yeah.
That makes the sound bounce perfectly, that it's a little bit echoey, but not too much. And so everything sounds really good here, right? So that designer disappeared, literally. We can't even find a sound design engineer. Just gone, vanished, right? And happens to be that the hall worked out great because everything is in a construction hand as well. It was a literal miracle.
How long
and
did
why
it take
did I
you?
do it? Because
sorry.
Why did I do it? Because a shark was behind me chewing me up, right? So I needed to get to the shore. Like, I had that pressure of, I don't have a choice. I got to get it done. And I think a lot of times when we do plan B and C and D, your plan A is not as focused and not as driven. I don't give myself a B option. There's no B option. It's just plan A, and we just got to get it done. That's it, you know? So I'm very happy I was dumb enough to do a concert hall.
I think from now on, Vera, I'm just going to start calling you Captain Marvel. What's interesting is we had another owner on a couple weeks ago, and she said something very, very similar. There is no plan B. She actually said those words. And I just think, I'm not trying to compare or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think when I encounter people who are doing really interesting or amazing things, there is this attitude of just complete commitment, all in commitment, and an idea that, it's this or nothing. You're gonna.
I would love to meet that lady.
Yeah. Nate.
Vera. I know we're out of time here, so I want to highlight something and then just share a quote that I read yesterday. I've been reading this book, Tiny Habits, which you might have bumped across, by B.J. Fogg, who's the behavior sort of opened the Stanford Behavior Design Lab. And he has this great quote, which is like, you should be very careful to overestimate your initial motivation, because motivation will never get you all the way to the finish line. It has to be designed in actions and your ability to do the actions. And I guess my comment, just listening to that concert hall story, is it's so clear that you had a dream that, as you put it, came specifically from a need, and I'm guessing you're networking through the governor to keep your country club gig had a specific deadline on it. Like, yes, but only for a specific. That was the negotiation. Yeah, we'll keep her here, but 12 months from now, she needs to find a new home. So you have this dream. You have a very clear pain point, which is part of your dream is to expand your program, and you've outgrown all of your external opportunities to do that. And then finally you have a deadline. And I feel like there's something linked here, and maybe you could just do it, maybe make a comment on this. There's something linked around this motivation comment, right? Your initial motivation, you got to be careful. He calls it the motivation wave. You got to be careful, because that's not going to be there when your sound engineer disappears, when you're on your third architect, when the bank pulls your funding, when a crisis like 2008, which you have absolutely no control over, occurs. What is it like? How did you stay motivated, or is motivation not really the right term? You have this great dream, which feels very Vera to me. Like, I get it that you have a concert hall. Like, that actually totally aligns in how I know you. You know, that you're a performer at heart in addition to a teacher. And so that concert hall is very clearly part of your world. It feels the same in BMF. It's we have a performance space that's part of our community room, but that feels very Nate to me.
Right.
So I'm curious about dream and motivation, and if that triggers any thoughts for you.
Yes, I mean, actually, the country club, when I turned it around, all of a sudden they wanted me forever, because that's a great gig for them to have me entertain their clients forever, right? So I was even more motivated to get out. I think about it. I played 48 times a year on a country club.
Yeah, that's cray.
On top of operating a school, going home at 1 a.m. on Christmas Eve. I mean, you don't understand. I mean, I could close my eyes and play every song in the world. No, that was a huge motivator to get out of that situation. I think what motivated me is that amazing vision of my students having a world-class experience that they're going to duplicate anywhere in the world. Do you understand? So, like, if you perform, it has to be an amazing piano that is reflecting on world-class stages. If you have a recording, it has to be world-class. We also have an amazing AV system, a wonderful AV system that our professionals come and record on our whole hall all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, to be honest with you, the biggest motivator for the concert hall and the school that gives you the biggest joy is seeing the next generation, second generation coming up. That's the best. They were in this hall. They did their senior recital here. We do have a program, senior recital. High school senior recital means you're running your own entire 1 hour show, and
That's
you're
fun.
recognized with an achievement. It's a huge thing. So you sing for an hour, you play guitar for an hour, you pianist for an hour, you're doing your clarinet. So I have students who did their final big senior recital certificate program here, went on to different schools, did finish their master's degree, and they're back teaching here with me. And it's just the best. So they are like, I'm their mom and their colleague and their boss at the same time. It's really cool.
I love it.
And we have more and more of these happening. So substitute teachers, we have a ton. We also have our rock pop pianist who's on faculty now, who's also our baby, who's grown up. That is the greatest thing. So to link this into the concert hall, once you have a facility that's this high standard and high quality, you will attract the second generation even more to come and back and stay with you as teachers. Because they're gonna go other places and they're not gonna see a concert hall like that.
Yes.
The acoustics are not the atmosphere is not the same. The usage is not the same. The entire organization to use the hall is not the same, because all of our chamber music classes are here. Anytime it's as I call it, our institution is classroom driven institution too, in a sense that if a teacher has an idea, I jump on it if it makes sense. Oh, you want a percussion ensemble? That sounds great. Let's do it. Oh, you want a steel band? Oh, you're going to love it. I'm getting steel drums. So because you have a hall, the ideas flow so much better, because the utilization of a facility opens up so much opportunities. Right now, we are in a process of getting our educational license so we can put actually, instead of just scenes together from a show, we can actually get the rights for a full show. And actually we can start charging tickets for rock concerts, because, obviously for the rights reasons, you can't. So the ideas just flow. So the hall is an entire gut center of inspiration for your entire program and faculty. And they just want to be coming back again. It's so wonderful.
I just am reminded of that quote around, you're not doing anyone a favor by playing small. And
Marianne
Vera,
Williamson.
Yeah, exactly. And Vera, you're just your version of going big to me is reflected in the Vera method, around what you talked about earlier in the episode, onboarding those piano teachers. You literally said the first 2 weeks are going to be a nightmare for them. That's because you're so passionate. And then secondly, this concert hall. This concert hall is at the core of you going big, not staying small.